The handkerchief still smelled of lavender. I had stitched it years ago, back when my hands were steadier and my hope still had places to go. It was meant for someone small, someone I wasn't supposed to see anymore. They told me I was confusing, that my love showed up too often and stayed too long. So I stopped showing up. But I didn't stop loving. Every month, I folded something soft into an envelope. A ribbon, a poem, a line of thread with her name tucked into the corner. No one ever wrote back. But that's the thing about real love. It doesn't always knock. It waits. It remembers. It finds its way. And one day, just as the wind lifted the drying cloth on my porch rail, I heard footsteps. Not heavy, not hurried, just enough. She was standing there, 16 now, and holding what I had sewn when she was 3. "Are you Grandma May?" Sweetheart. I had waited more than a decade to hear that name wrap itself around my heart again. The first time I felt it, it was small. Heather didn't take the tea I made, said she preferred her own blend. Set mine aside without sipping. She called my crocheted blanket cute in a way that felt sideways. She moved the baby's crib without telling me, said the light was too bright near the window, though Sadie had always loved that spot. I didn't say anything, not at first. She was the new mother. I told myself she just needed space, but space became silence, and silence became walls. One Saturday, I came over with a pie, apple cinnamon, Jacob's favorite. Heather opened the door halfway. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Sadie's sleeping," she said, but I could hear music inside. I could hear laughter too. Still, I nodded, handed her the pie. She didn't invite me in. The next time, it was a phone call. Jacob said Heather was just overwhelmed, said they needed a little breathing room. I asked if I had done something wrong. He paused, too long, then said, "No, Mama, it's just a phase. We'll talk soon." But soon didn't come. Birthdays passed with texts, not visits, photos sent from afar. I was told Sadie was too tired or too cranky for calls. And somehow, I became a guest in a house I once helped build. I still remember the moment it truly sank in. Sadie was 3. I had picked out a small stuffed lamb from the shop on Willow Street, wrapped it in blue paper with silver stars. Wrote a little note in the card. "For Sadie, who taught me how to love a new generation." I walked up to the porch, knocked, waited. Heather opened the door but didn't reach for the gift. "She has too many toys already," she said, curt, then added, "We're trying to simplify." Behind her, I saw Jacob walk past with a laundry basket. He didn't even look up. I left the gift on the steps and walked away feeling like I had brought something shameful, not soft. I tried once more. I asked Jacob, "Why is she treating me like this?" He sighed. "I don't want to be in the middle." "But you are," I whispered. "She's cutting me off from my granddaughter." "She's just protective," he said. "She's afraid your memory slips are getting worse." I blinked. "What memory slips?" Jacob looked uncomfortable. Said something about how I'd once forgotten Sadie's bottle, or called her the wrong name. It was one time. I was tired, and it wasn't even wrong. I had said Sally, the name of Sadie's favorite book character. But that was enough, I guess. Enough to plant a seed of doubt. And once that seed was there, no matter how careful I was, they only seemed to see what fit the story Heather told. The worst part wasn't being pushed away. It was watching my son choose comfort over truth. Letting go of the woman who held him through every fever, who walked the floor with him in the night, who once worked 2 jobs so he could have piano lessons. Now I was too much, too fragile, too inconvenient. And just like that, the name Grandma wasn't mine to hold anymore. After they stopped letting me near, I didn't stop being a grandmother, but I started pretending like I wasn't, at least on the outside. I packed away the toys she used to play with at my house, the tiny tea set, the picture books, even the little pink sweater I had bought when she was born. It still smelled faintly of baby lotion and hope. I folded it slowly, pressed it between 2 sheets of tissue paper, and placed it in a box labeled Sadie. I told myself it was just for now, just until things settled. But seasons passed, and the door never reopened. Each year, I still sent her a birthday card. I never heard back. The first one had glitter, a hand-drawn elephant on roller skates. I wrote, "5 already. I hope you're still dancing." The next year, I kept it simpler. Just a hummingbird and some pressed lavender petals inside. I didn't write much, just signed it, with all the love that fits inside a grandma's heart. By the 7th birthday, I didn't know if she even remembered me, so I started writing the cards more for myself. To remember who I had been, to remember how much I still cared, even if no one was looking. I used to hear children playing outside my apartment window. Their laughter would bounce off the bricks and find its way into my kitchen, where I sat alone with a lukewarm cup of tea. I would close my eyes and imagine Sadie's voice among them. That same high, bright giggle from when she used to run down my hallway, sock feet sliding on the hardwood. "Grandma, catch me!" She used to say that, laughing so hard she'd hiccup. Sometimes, in the quiet, I'd whisper back, "I'm still trying, baby. I'm still trying." But there was no one to catch anymore. I baked less, no one to bring cookies to, and I never got the recipe right after that. Too much flour or not enough cinnamon. I stopped wearing my good earrings, the ones Sadie used to call sparkle beans. They didn't feel right without her tugging at my sleeves, asking if she could wear the shiny ones when she was older. And my photos? I turned most of them face down. It hurt too much to see what I used to be. A woman holding her granddaughter close, both smiling like the world was small and safe. I didn't feel like that woman anymore. Some nights, I would open the box, the one labeled Sadie. I'd run my fingers over the pages of her old drawings. Stick figure giraffes, a blue sun, one scribble of what she once told me was Grandma's house. Just a square with a triangle roof and a tiny door. It made me laugh and ache, because somehow, even a crayon drawing felt more like home than the apartment I lived in. I wish I could say I got angry, that I screamed or fought harder. But grief like this doesn't shout. It settles into quiet corners of your life, into folded sweaters, unsent cookies, birthday cards with no stamps. That's where I lived, for years, not erased, just left behind. I didn't knock, not that last time. When Jacob told me, "Mama, maybe don't stop by unannounced anymore," Heather thinks it's confusing for Sadie." He looked down when he said it, like the words were too heavy to meet my eyes. Heather didn't say a thing. She just folded her arms, like the gate to my own family had quietly closed. I nodded. That's all I did, and I turned away with my heart folded smaller than my coat. A week later, I sent something. Not a text, not a voicemail. A small envelope, no return address. Inside it was a handkerchief, soft white cotton, edges stitched with purple wildflowers. And in one corner, I had embroidered a line, "To Sadie, with the kind of love that never needs to be seen." I didn't mail it. I gave it to Elsie, my neighbor. She was still spry back then and walked by Jacob's house every morning on her way to the bakery. She slipped it into their mailbox, said she didn't mind, didn't ask questions. And so began my quiet rhythm. One envelope, each month, for 5 years. Sometimes a postcard, sometimes a ribbon. A small book of poems. Once, a pressed flower tucked in parchment. Every time, something that told Sadie, "You are not forgotten." I don't know if she ever saw them. Maybe Heather threw them away. Maybe Jacob read them and stayed silent. But I sent them anyway. Because love, real love, doesn't ask to be received. It just shows up. One morning, as I was folding a new note for Sadie, I paused. It was spring, and the scent of lilac came through the window. I stared at the small stack of things I had prepared. That day, I wrote something different in my journal. I remember the day she wrapped her fingers around mine. She was so small, I thought she might slip through time itself. But her grip was stronger than anything I've ever known. That was the last time I sent a package. Not because I gave up, but because Elsie passed away, and I moved. That little apartment had become too loud with memory, too small with absence. I found a quiet place at the edge of town, a patch of green, a porch swing, and room to breathe. I started learning how to make candles, lavender mostly. The scent always reminded me of holding Sadie when she was teething, her cheek against my shoulder. I didn't send anything else, not because I didn't think of her, but because sometimes you just don't know where love is landing anymore. So I wrote in my journal. I logged every gift I had sent, every word I wished I could have spoken aloud. The last entry in that notebook said, "Even if she never calls me Grandma, I will still stitch her name into every corner of my quiet." One autumn morning, I was hanging new handkerchiefs out to dry. The ones I kept making, even though no one asked for them. There was a breeze, and then a sound. Light footsteps. I turned, and there she was. A young girl, maybe 16. Brown hair, wide eyes. A canvas bag slung over one shoulder, and in her hand, a handkerchief, worn, soft, edges faded, but still visible. The tiny wildflowers, my crooked stitching. I froze. She held it out like it was proof of something, like it had led her here. "Are you Grandma May?" My knees nearly buckled, but I managed a nod. She took a small step closer, then another. "I kept it," she said softly. "My mom said it was junk, but I knew someone made this just for me. I never forgot the stitching." I didn't cry. Not then. Some reunions are too holy for tears. Instead, I pointed to the porch. We sat, 2 generations apart, one thread between us. She looked around at the garden, at the rows of lavender, at the clothesline with handkerchiefs fluttering like little flags of hope. "I think I always knew you were real," she whispered. "I just didn't know how to find you." "You didn't have to," I said. "You remembered me, that's all it took." She smiled, not wide, just enough, and pulled the handkerchief to her chest. I finally asked, "How did you find me?" She reached into her bag and pulled out an old envelope, crumpled at the edges. "I kept this. It had your handwriting. The return address was smudged, but I found the street. I walked. And in that moment, all those years of silence, of missing birthdays, of gifts left unanswered, and yet they softened. Not forgotten, not erased, but softened. We didn't hug, not yet. We just sat there, 2 souls that had waited long enough, with a handkerchief between them, still holding the scent of love that never asked to be seen. A thread from the past had stitched right through the present, and somehow it held. Do you know what a single stitch can carry, even after all those years? I never told Jacob what I had done, never told him about the gifts, the letters, the handkerchiefs stitched late at night under the glow of a single lamp. He didn't ask, so I didn't explain. Some truths are meant to be discovered, not declared. After Sadie came that day, after she sat beside me on the porch with that little square of cotton in her hands, I made her a cup of tea. She took it with both palms like it was something sacred. And maybe it was. We didn't speak much, but the silence was warm, like an old quilt, worn but still holding. I showed her the journal, the one where I had written every gift I sent, every word I had meant to say. She flipped slowly, her fingertips tracing each page. She didn't say anything at first, but her eyes told me she understood. She reached the last entry, the one with the line I stitched in my heart more than once. "Even if she never calls me Grandma, I will still stitch her name into every corner of my quiet." Sadie closed the journal, then held it to her chest. Not to borrow, not to return, but to keep. And that, to me, was enough. The next week, I left a small box at Jacob's front step. No note, no message, just one thing inside. A folded handkerchief, the last of the ones I had ever made for Sadie. This one, stitched with 3 simple words. She found me. I don't know if he opened it or if Heather ever saw. But I imagined Jacob standing at that door, holding the box, wondering. I imagine him seeing the stitching, running his thumb over the soft fabric, maybe even remembering the ones that used to appear in their mailbox. Maybe realizing what he had missed, what he had allowed to slip away. I didn't need an apology, didn't want a scene. Just that box, just those words, just a quiet reminder. That love, the kind that stays, never disappears. It only waits until the right hands pick it back up. Sadie came back the next Sunday. She didn't call, didn't write. She just showed up with a paper bag full of lemons. Said she found a recipe online for lavender shortbread and thought I might like to try it. We baked in silence, me measuring, her zesting the lemons with her sleeves rolled to the elbows. I watched her hands, so much like Jacob's when he was young, but steadier, more careful. She didn't ask about the missing years, and I didn't bring them up. Some gaps don't need to be filled. They just need to be held, gently, so they don't grow wider. After the cookies cooled, we sat on the porch again. Same spot, same breeze. She took out a small box from her bag. A jewelry box, maybe, worn at the corners. Inside it was a folded handkerchief, but not one I had made. She handed it to me with a nervous smile. "I stitched it myself," she said. "Kind of crooked. I don't really sew, but..." I opened it slowly. The stitches weren't perfect. The thread bunched a little at the corners. But in the middle, in soft pink letters, it said, "Now I stitch back." I had no words, only a hand that reached across the quiet and found hers, waiting. That summer, Sadie came every Sunday, sometimes with muffins, sometimes with questions. She asked about the quilt in my bedroom, about the names in old family photos, about the recipe for the tea I always served. One afternoon, we sat in the garden as she read aloud from a book of poems I had once sent her, but never knew if she received. She looked up mid-sentence and said, "I think I always felt you were there, even when I was told you weren't." I didn't answer, just nodded. Because some truths don't need repeating, they just need living. By September, I had started a new journal, not to track what I had lost, but to record what had returned. I called it Threads Found Again, and on the first page, in my neatest handwriting, I wrote, "Some ties aren't broken. They just get quiet until someone listens." Sadie smiled when she read it, then added a little heart in the corner, crooked like her stitching, but full, just like us. That little handkerchief sits on my nightstand now, next to the lamp and the photo of a girl who found her way back with thread and time. Not every story gets stitched up so neatly. Some are still fraying. Some haven't even been spoken aloud yet. But if you're holding one, a quiet ache, a name you're no longer allowed to say, you don't have to carry it in silence. My thread is here, and so is yours. You can write to me, or just whisper it where someone might finally listen. The email's right below, darling. Or leave a note in the community tab. I'll be waiting. Gently.